Okay. I forgot the microphone. Oh, okay. I guess I should sit up. I don't know. My back is hurting something awful today. But what I wanted to do was bring you another wonderful episode of Amy Joy Presents. Okay. Oh, that's weird. So what I wanted to do was give you a little mini lecture on goal setting. That's what we're going to be focusing on this lecture in this episode. And I just wanted to do that. So I'm having a few little issues here, but I'm going to bring up my screen and go ahead and share what I've got here. And we'll see if we can't get this going from the current slide here. So I wanted to share with you some things on goal setting. And basically, I'm trying to put this in a place where we can still see. Okay. So basically, when you're setting goals, I'm sure most people have heard of the SMART method, right? Make sure it's very specific, measurable, aggressive. That's a different one. Not aggressive. We don't want aggressive. That's not right. Huh. Hmm. Okay, we're back. I'm going to share this again because I needed to find a different uh a different a different graphic here. Uh so what's really shocking to me, it said aggressive, and that's never usually been part of the SMART goal setting thing. But I guess if you want to aggressively, attack your goals, that's cool too. Uh, but the basics of the SMART method is be specific, measurable, achievable. Make sure that it's something that you can actually do within the amount of time that you say you can do it. And relevant to your values and your goals. If it's not relevant and you're not passionate about it, who cares? And this should be time bound instead of time based. So, is it 6 months, 12 months, 3 years, 5 years, 20 years? And you should have goals for all of those things. Because when you start with a goal and you create your goals using the SMART method, you really do want to kind of work your way backwards. So if you've got a plan for 10 years out, what is it going to look like in 10 years? What's going to be accomplished? And then start breaking that down into chunks. Okay, what do I need? Where do I need to be in 5 years in order for that to happen? Where do I need to be in 2 years? Where do I need to be in a year? What are the activities involved in all of those things? And then you take it from 12 months all the way down to 6 months, and then monthly, weekly, daily. So break it down farther and farther and farther from this big goal, just kind of whittling it down to all of the what we call objectives or action pieces that are necessary in order to achieve your goal. So for instance, if you want to be a professor, this was one of my biggest goals, right? I wanted to be a professor. I started teaching and I thought, oh my gosh, I love teaching. This is insane. And I love teaching on psychology and the mind and all of these things. And my goal was to become a professor. So, I had a 5-year goal. And this was back in 2019, to become a professor. That means I had to get a PhD. I couldn't just do nothing, right? So first step was signing up for the classes, and then it was one class at a time, one assignment at a time, and it was one day every day. There was something that I was doing to forward that goal, whether it was writing a discussion post or part of a paper or whatever the case might be, because we accomplish our huge big goals little by little. Everything is done little by little. We don't ever usually take these big giant leaps into a massive goal. It just doesn't happen that way. So and it can be very detrimental if you do, because if you get there and you're not prepared for it, then what the heck, right? So I'm going to go ahead and advance this slide. So if you have no idea what the heck your goals are or how to even find them, I'm going to move my face around here so we can see oh no, we'll go around here. There we go. So, figure out what you're passionate about. Do you love teaching? Do you love painting? Do you love um, chemistry? Do you love doing hair? I'm using my kids as examples. Actually, not hair, makeup, right? Do you love, being in nature? Like, what is it that you find yourself losing time, right? You get engulfed in these activities and you're just completely in the zone. You're completely not with the present moment anymore. Um, so whether you want to call it in the zone or the flow or whatever, but it's those activities where we lose time, where we're so engulfed in what we're doing that really nothing else seems to exist. You need to ask yourself, what am I good at? If you want to be a chemist and you suck at math, maybe that's not the right way to go. Or maybe you can really work hard at getting better at math. I mean, it's totally up to you. It depends on how passionate you are about this thing. Is your passion going to, move you forward enough to overcome the things that you are not currently good at? Do you have the potential to do those things? Some people are really good at that stuff and they can pick up academic things really easy. Other people are not. So you really need to be realistic with who you are, where you're at, what your passion is, and what you are capable of. But I'll tell you, if you got a passion for it, if you lose yourself in it, then you've got a capacity for it. What do others say that you're good at? Oftentimes I find, with myself, I always self-doubting. It was a constant sense of not being worthy enough, right? The imposter syndrome would come in and be like, you suck. So what do other people say that you're good at? If you get up and you sing and you're like, that was the worst thing I've ever done. And everyone was like, that was amazing. Unless it's your family. I mean, if your family says it, then maybe ask strangers. So ask others, what are you good at? Are you good with people? Are you good with organization? Are you detail oriented, right? I'm good with people and I love to teach, but Lord help me, I am not good with the minor little details. Most of my emails I have to resend because I'm like, oops, I forgot to say that, or I didn't do this, or it's a constant going back to fix what I didn't do completely the first time. But the goal is to just get it done, right? So, but what do others say that you're good at doing? Where would you like to be in a year, 3 years, 5 years? So we already talked about this and taking that big goal and chunking it down, providing yourself with activities, what is it going to take to get from A to Z? And then what is it going to get from, from A to B, from B to C, and that kind of thing. So you really need to figure out logically what you can accomplish, what you would like to accomplish. And I'll tell you, we can accomplish more um, over the course of 3 or 5 years than we would typically think we can accomplish over a year. So we tend to overshoot the goal, and I will tell you, overshoot it. Just go for it. Because even if you overshoot and you get halfway there, that's still halfway there. And what you can accomplish in 5 years is just phenomenal. So, and I would say keep these goals in front of you, right? So 3 years ago, I posted on my Google Calendar to go off every morning at 8:05. Professor, right? PhD. Well, it was PhD first, then professor. What was the other thing? Award-winning novelist. Now, there's no awards just yet, but I am a novelist, so I've published 3 books. And what's the other thing? There's another thing I should just check. But yeah, all of those things were there. So, and here I am. It took 4 years. It took 4 years to get me from, I want to be a teacher, I want to be a professor, to being a professor. So I reached that goal in 4 years. But I tell you, every little assignment, little by little, was a little daunting. It was like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get there, because here I'm looking at this giant 5-year goal, thinking this is massive. It's huge. But if you just chunk it down to one task at a time, it's so much more manageable and it's so doable. This is how people get where they want to go. But you first have to figure out where you want to go, who you want to be, and at least start heading in that direction. So let's see what we got next here. Whoops, that is not what I wanted. There we go. Uh-oh. We went way too far. So, okay, so these would be the group discussions, but what I'll tell you here too, there's a little chart here, and you can look this up on YouTube, or Google or whatever, and just find your strengths, find what you're good at, what you love to do. That's all this is. So we're going to move on a little bit here. This is for class. So when do we know that we've succeeded, right? So again, we don't get to see the end goal. We don't get to see the big picture until we're actually there. And we're rarely ever always just there. So it's one little bit at a time. We get one step illuminated, we step into it. The next step gets illuminated, we walk into it. So it's this constant trusting that we know which direction we're headed. Even if we don't really trust it, is it the best decision in the moment? So and success is not linear. There are big pitfalls and failures, and or little pitfalls and failures, depending on how big your goal is. So the bigger your goal, the bigger your boo-boos, and it might just suck from time to time. So but that's how we learn. I wanted to share this because so Andrew Huberman had part of this on his podcast, one of his podcasts. If you don't know Andrew Huberman, he's really, really cool neurobiologist, neuroscience guy, and he's got the Huberman podcast, and he talks about this stuff all the time. And I wanted to show basically the biological responses, what happens when we set a goal, and the chemical reactions that happen, and then the physical manifestation of that. So when we get excited, when we choose a goal, it actually, that those anticipatory thoughts, those things are like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna be this. That's anticipation, right? We're waiting for it to happen. What happens in our body is adrenaline gets released, right? There's a biological response that adrenaline turns into action. That action, then when you complete a small part of your goal, so whether it's I completed a discussion post today, I completed part of my assignment today, I did what was on my list today, that completion and that sense of mastery over whatever it was that you set your goal for that day releases dopamine, right? And that is a biological response. So dopamine is that reward center that says, "Ooh, we did something really cool, and I feel really good about it." It's a feel good chemical. It's often we get dopamine hits every time we check social media. We get dopamine hits every time we play a game and we blow people up, and whatever you are. I've got some sort of candy thing going on with my phone. But every time I open that up and I'm like, whoo, they all matched and they disappeared, that was a dopamine hit. So it was a sense of relief, and a sense of feeling good. So what happens when you set goals and you master or complete an activity associated with your goal, that dopamine release then says, oh my gosh, that felt so good, I want more. How do I get more? Well, there's a next step in your goal, right? There's another action you need to complete. Tomorrow is a new day with a new list of things to do that are going to forward you towards your goal. And guess what? Every time you anticipate that, then adrenaline again. I couldn't quite find the infographic that I wanted, so I put this little spirally thing on the side here to show you what happens when you start in the center with a goal, right? This whole thing is a big goal. And when you start in the center, and you've got these little goals, and you've got these little actions or big actions, and you begin to work your goal, it begins to create a loop, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until you finally reach the outer edges of your goal, and you're closer and closer and closer, right? So success begets success. The more you succeed, the more you succeed. Now, this is also true, sort of the antithesis of this is the more you fail, if you don't learn and correct course, the more you fail. So this could be really detrimental if you don't assess where you are every time that you make a boo-boo, every time you go a wrong direction, and you don't stop to think what the heck went wrong. Right. The bigger the circle is going to get, and we get into what we call counterproductive persistence, right? When we just continue to do the same things over and over again, or continue to go the same or the wrong direction over and over again. And we end up in this big cycle of what the heck did I just spend all my time and effort on? But the more you succeed, the more you succeed, which brings us to the next idea, which is Pareto principles, right? So several people on YouTube have talked about Pareto. And basically 20% of what you do, the time, the resources, everything you put in produces 80% of the output. So 80% then of what you do only produces 20%. So how do you determine what those 20-80 ratios look like? Well, great question, you might ask. So what happens is when we're trying to make decisions about how much time to spend on something, we need to prioritize our time, right? So that 80% of the time is producing, or excuse me, 20% of your time and effort is producing 80% of the output. That means that 20% needs to be optimal. That means if you can determine what is going on during that 20% and you can increase it, then you can have exponential output, right? So what happens is we need to determine where our priorities are. So the box you want to be in, and I forget which dude, it was long ago. It was not the Think and Grow Rich guy, I don't think. It was somebody else. Anyway, came up with this little quadrant, right? Might have been the Think and Grow Rich guy. I don't know. So the one you want to be in though, so we've got important, not important, urgent, and not urgent here. You really want to be in the box that's important, but not urgent. You don't want to be under stress, and you want to make sure you're working on things that forward your goals. So obviously if it's not important, but it's urgent. I mean, you need to address things. These things do come up that we need to address that are urgent. So that's, it's going to happen. If it's not important and it's not urgent, just don't do it, right? Sometimes we need to veg out in front of the TV, 8 o'clock at night or whatever. That's a not important, not urgent kind of thing. If you need to, this is where we find our rest and relaxation and recreation kind of thing. It's not important, not urgent. But if you want to forward your goals, the zone of proximity of where you need to be in order to forward your goals is the important, not urgent. If it's important and urgent, your stress levels are so high, your brain is not necessarily functioning the way that it should to actually produce an output that's going to work for you. So you want to be under very little stress, and it needs to be an important task. So the way you do that is by incrementally setting your tasks in a way that you're gradually building, right? You're scaffolding. So you've done task 1 through 3 today. Tomorrow you're going to do 4 and 5 and so on and so on and so on. But if you say, you know what, I'm going to get 15 tasks done this week, and then you wait till Friday to get it all done, now it's urgent and it's important. And now you're under the gun, you're stressed, and you're not going to output what you could potentially with it not being urgent. So you're not stressed, but it's important. So those are really the basics of goal setting. I'm going to make sure here, I'm going to stop sharing my screen because that's for school. So, just to recap, goal setting is important, right? If you don't have a goal, if you never set a goal, then you're not going to get there. It's just like, what the heck, right? It's like throwing things at a dartboard, just maybe, unless you're really good at darts. I'm not. Half the time it didn't even stick in the board. So that was just not a good example. But goal setting, is half the battle, right? Saying, okay, what am I passionate about? Where do I want to be? What is within my control? And how do I, be specific? How do I measure this? Is it important? Is it valuable to me? Does it forward my life in a way that's healthy? Does it forward society in a way that's healthy? Right. So really assess these things at the beginning and then determine what is the best plan of action that I can go forward from here, and remain relatively calm, excited, passionate, but calm, and work on the important things. So that's really how we set our goals. We don't have to wait till, the beginning of the year. I know it's, New Year's right now, but we don't have to wait till the beginning of the year to set goals. We can set goals anytime we want to. In fact, every morning I reset my daily goals and make sure I'm on track. Because if I miss something the day before, I just add it to today's list. I'm not going to stress out about it because that takes me out of the zone of proximal output. So That does it for me today, and I hope you have a great day. That's on goal setting.
Hi, and don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button as well as the all notifications so you can get a notification anytime that something new comes up through my channel. So I'm also going to link the book, the Write Your Story book, which can also help you discover basically, who you are, what you're going through, all the good stuff. And it can also help you with goal setting as well, find your passion. So I hope you check those things out, and I'll leave links to all the other books as well. So I'll see you next time. Bye bye.